The Great Hall of Nexus Prime had never seen such fear. Ambassador Hyenwu looked at the faces around the massive circular table. 12 different alien species sat there. All of them were scared. All of them were running out of time. Show them. The latest reports, Hyenwu said to Dr. Sujin. The hologram in the center of the room came alive. Red dots covered the galaxy map. Each red dot was a dead world. Each red dot meant billions of lives lost to the Void Swarm. In the past month, we lost 17 more systems, Dr. Sujin announced. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. The swarm consumed everything. Plants, animals, people, even the rocks and metal. Nothing was left behind. The Krolix representative made a clicking sound with his forearms. Our quantum bombs did nothing. The creatures absorbed the energy and grew stronger. The Vorthok. Reality warpers could not even slow them down, added another voice from across the table. They twisted space and time around the swarm. The monsters just walked through it like it was air. Hyenwu stood up. At 7 feet tall, he was shorter than most beings at the table, but his voice carried across the room. We have tried everything. Every weapon we know, every strategy our best minds could think of. Every piece of technology we have built in 10,000 years of advancement. The room fell silent. Outside the great windows, they could see the stars. But now those stars looked different. Each one might be the next target. Zentari used their time dilation fields, Dr. Sujin continued. They slowed time around. An entire swarm fleet to almost nothing. It should have trapped them for centuries. But somehow, the swarm broke free in just 3 days. What about the Nexari mind control technology? Asked the Vorthok. Useless, replied the Nexar representative. The swarm has no individual minds to control. They think as one massive brain spread across millions of bodies. Hyenwu walked to the great window. In the distance, he could see the evacuation ships leaving Nexus Prime. Even this place, the center of galactic civilization, was no longer safe. The swarm learns from everything we throw at them, he said. Every weapon we use, they adapt to it within hours. Every strategy we try, they counter it before we can use it again. Dr. Sujin brought up new numbers on the hologram. The statistics were terrible to look at. 847 worlds consumed. 23,400,000,000 lives lost, and the swarm is moving faster now. They are reproducing at a rate that should be impossible. Fast? Asked the Krolix. One swarm creature can split into 10 new creatures in just 6 hours. Those 10 can become 100 in another 6 hours. By the end of one day, we face 1,000 creatures where there was only one that morning. The room erupted in panicked voices. Different languages mixed together as species spoke to their own kind, but the fear was the same in every voice. Hyenwu raised his hand for silence. There is one more option. What option? Demanded the Vorthok. We have used everything. Every species at this table has shared their most advanced weapons. The Zentari even gave us their time travel technology. Nothing works. Not every species, Hyenwu said quietly. The room went silent again. Dr. Sujin looked at him with wide eyes. She knew what he was thinking. Cannot be serious, she whispered. What are you talking about? Asked the Krolix. Every advanced species in the galaxy is represented here. Hyenwu turned back to face the table. Not every species. There is one we have never asked for help, one we always ignored because they seemed too primitive. Which species? The humans. The reaction was immediate. Some representatives laughed. Others made sounds of disbelief. The Vorthok representative actually fell off his floating chair. The humans. The Krolix clicked in amusement. Those tiny creatures from Sector 7G? They have not even mastered faster than light travel on their own. They still use kinetic weapons. Metal bullets fired from metal tubes. Their whole planet is a death world, added the Nexari. They evolved in constant danger. They fight each other over resources. They are barely civilized. Dr. Sujin looked at the data on her tablet. The humans have been in space for less than 200 years. Most of that time they spent fighting among themselves. We have no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no quantum technology. But Hien Wu did not back down. Maybe that is exactly what we need. What do you mean? Think about it, Hien Wu said. The swarm adapts to advanced technology, learns from our quantum weapons and reality warpers. But what if we used something so primitive, so basic, that the swarm has never seen it before? The Krolloks stopped laughing. You think primitive weapons might work? I think we have run out of advanced options. Every species here represents millions of years of technological development. We have weapons that can destroy stars and tools, that can bend space itself. But we are losing to creatures that should not even exist. Dr. Sujin was reading more human data. The humans do have one interesting quality. Their planet has tried to kill them for millions of years. Ice ages, volcanoes, earthquakes, diseases, asteroid impacts. Somehow they survived all of it. Survival. Instinct mused the Nexari. Most of our species evolved on peaceful worlds. We developed technology to make life easier. Humans developed it to stay alive. Hien Wu nodded. And they think differently than we do. Try to find the most efficient solution to every problem. Humans try everything until something works. They call it thinking outside the box. The Vorthok had climbed back onto his chair. This is madness. You want to ask a primitive species to solve a problem that has defeated the combined might of 12 advanced civilizations? Yes, Hien Wu said simply. Because we have tried everything else. The room fell quiet again. Everyone looked at the red dots on the galaxy map. The swarm was still moving, still consuming, still growing. Finally, the Krolloks spoke. What do we have to lose? If the swarm reaches the core systems, we are all dead anyway. One by one, the other representatives nodded their agreement. Even the Vorthok eventually gave his consent. I will go to Earth myself, Hien Wu announced. First contact with humans should be handled carefully. We will need their help, not their fear. Dr. Sujin looked worried. What if they refuse? What if they see our technology and decide we are a threat? Hien Wu was already walking toward the door. Then we die anyway. But maybe, just maybe, a species crazy enough to survive on a death world might be crazy enough to fight an impossible enemy. As he left the Great Hall, Hien Wu could hear the evacuation alarms starting to sound throughout Nexus Prime. Time was running out for everyone. Commander Jiho was having a bad day. The asteroid detection system had been acting up all week. And now it was showing something big heading straight for the colony ship New Sol. Sir, we have an object on approach vector, reported Lieutenant SCO Jun from the sensor station. It's big and moving fast. Jiho looked at his screen. Whatever it was definitely not an asteroid. It was too smooth, too regular. But it was also not sending any signals. Could be space debris, he muttered. Or maybe pirates with a new ship design. The object was getting closer. Jiho made his decision. Charge the main guns. If that thing gets within firing range, we blow it up. Sir, wait, SEO Gen called out. I'm getting something weird on the scanners. This thing is made of materials I've never seen before, and there are life signs inside. Before Jiho could respond, his communications officer started shouting, Sir, we're getting a message. But it's not coming through our normal channels. What do you mean? It's coming through the emergency beacon system. But the signal is ... different, like it's being translated in real time. Jiho grabbed the microphone. Unknown vessel. This is Commander Jiho of the human colony ship, New Sol. Identify yourself immediately or we will fire. The response came back in perfect Korean, but with a strange accent. Please do not shoot. I am Ambassador Hien Wu of the Galactic Council. I come seeking help from the human species. The bridge went completely silent. Jiho stared at the microphone like it had just spoken to him in an alien language, which, he realized, it probably had. Did he just say Galactic Council? Whispered the communications officer. And did he say he was seeking help from us? Added SEO-Gen.G-Ho took a deep breath. Unknown vessel, please maintain your current position. Do not approach any closer. We'll send a shuttle to escort you to our main hangar bay. Understood, Commander. I will wait. 2 hours later, Jiho found himself in the main conference room with Admiral Dayun and the senior staff. They had all agreed on the same thing. First contact with aliens was above their pay grade. But since Admiral Dayun was the highest ranking human in the sector, the job fell to her. The alien walked into the room, and Jiho had to admit he was not what anyone had expected. Hyunwoo looked almost human, except he was taller, and his skin had a slight blue tint. He wore simple robes and carried no visible weapons. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me," Hyunwoo said, bowing slightly. "I apologize for the sudden arrival. We are facing an emergency situation." Admiral Dayun gestured to a chair. "Please, sit down. You said you were looking for help from humans. That's unusual. We're probably the least advanced species in the galaxy." "That may be exactly why we need you," Hyunwoo replied. He sat down carefully, clearly not used to human furniture. "May I explain our situation?" "Please do." Hyunwoo activated a small device, and a hologram appeared above the conference table. It showed the galaxy with red sections marked throughout. "For the past year, we've been fighting an enemy called the Void Swarm. They are creatures that consume everything in their path. Planets, stars, entire civilizations. Nothing stops them." Captain Taman, the ship's military strategist, leaned forward. "What kind of weapons do they use?" "Do not use weapons in the way you might understand. They simply absorb everything they touch. Matter, energy, even space itself seems to bend around them." "What do they want?" asked Dr. Bora, the ship's science officer. "We do not know. They do not communicate. They do not negotiate. They simply consume and move on to the next target." Admiral Dayun studied the hologram. "You said you're looking for our help? What have you tried so far?" Hyunwoo's expression grew sad. "Everything. The Kraliks used quantum bombs that should have destroyed entire solar systems. The Vorthok deployed reality warping technology that can bend space and time. The Zentari used time dilation fields to trap the swarm in slow motion. None of it worked. How did the swarm counter these weapons?" Asked Captain Timon. "They adapted. Within hours of facing a new weapon, they developed immunity to it. They learn faster than we can develop new strategies." Dr. Biora was taking notes on her tablet. "What about biological weapons? Chemical? Attacks? Electromagnetic pulse?" "All tried. All failed. The swarm seems to be able to absorb and adapt to anything we can create." The room fell silent as the humans absorbed this information. Finally, Captain Taman spoke up. "You mentioned 12 advanced species are fighting this thing. What kind of technology are we talking about?" Hyunwoo gestured to his device. "This translator can convert any language to any other language in real time. Our ships can travel between stars in days.
Okay.
We can manipulate matter at the atomic level and create energy from nothing. And none of that worked against these swarm creatures?" "Correct." Jiho scratched his head. "So why come to us? We can barely get to our own moon without blowing something up," because Hyunwoo said quietly, "You think differently than we do. Every species in the Galactic Council evolved on peaceful worlds. We developed technology to make life easier, more efficient, more comfortable. But humans, ... What about humans?" asked Admiral Doyun. "You evolved on a death world. Your entire planet has been trying to kill you for millions of years. You developed technology not for comfort, but for survival. You never stopped fighting each other, even as you reached for the stars." Captain Taman grinned. "You're saying we're the crazy ones?" "I am saying you might be the only ones crazy enough to find a solution we have missed." Dr. Bora looked up from her notes. "What do these swarm creatures actually look like? How do they move? Do they have a command structure?" "They appear as dark, shifting masses. Sometimes they take the shape of the last creature they consumed. They move through space without ships and through planets as if the rock was water. As for command structure, ... double quotes. We believe they share a collective consciousness. Everything has a weakness," Captain Taman said firmly. "Even if we can't see it yet. That is what we are hoping," Hyunwoo replied. "Will you help us?" Admiral Dayun looked around the table at her officers. Each of them nodded slightly. "We'll help," she said. "But we do this our way. We use our own weapons, our own tactics, and our own people." We don't want any of your advanced technology confusing the situation. Hien Wu looked surprised. You refuse our assistance? Refuse your technology? Taemin corrected. If these things adapt to advanced weapons, then we use primitive ones. If they expect logical tactics, we give them chaos. I do not understand. Dr. Bora smiled. Ambassador, you came looking for help from a species that survived by being unpredictable. The first rule of being unpredictable is not to use predictable tools. You are going to fight the swarm with primitive weapons. Metal bullets fired from metal tubes, Admiral Daeyoon said, repeating the dismissive phrase they had heard from other aliens. And whatever else we can think of. Hien Wu was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I will return to the Galactic Council with your agreement. How soon can you mobilize a fleet? Give us 2 weeks, Admiral Daeyoon said. And Ambassador, make sure your people stay out of our way. It's going to get messy. As Hien Wu left the conference room, Ji-ho heard him muttering to himself in his own language. The translator caught a few words. ... completely insane. What have I done? ... Captain Taemin chuckled. I think he's starting to understand what he signed up for. The planet Ketsevan was dying. From orbit, General Wu Jin could see the dark patches spreading across the surface like a disease. Each patch was a swarm feeding ground, consuming everything that had once been a thriving world. Sir, the alien fleet? Commanders are requesting another meeting, reported his aide. Lieutenant SEO-Jun. Wu Jin sighed. What do they want now? They want to review our battle plans again? They say our tactics are ... unorthodox. Unorthodox is a nice way to put it, muttered Captain Najin from the navigation station. I heard the Krolix commander say we were dangerously insane through the viewport. Wu Jin watched the alien ships positioning themselves in perfect formation. Energy shields glowed around each vessel, weapons charged with the power to destroy moons. Everything neat, organized, and predictable. The human fleet looked like a junkyard by comparison. Ships of different sizes and designs, no matching formations. And weapons that looked primitive next to the alien technology. But Wu Jin had seen the reports from the previous battles. All that advanced technology had not saved a single world. Tell the alien commanders, we start the attack in 1 hour. Wu Jin ordered, with or without their approval. Down on the planet's surface, Sergeant Inho was checking his equipment one last time. His squad carried simple rifles, explosive charges, and close combat weapons. Next to him, the alien soldiers looked like they were wearing spacesuits made of silver and glass. Remember, Inho told his team, these swarm things adapt to everything they see, so we keep changing what they see. No patterns, no repeated tactics, nothing they can predict. Private Min Jae raised his hand. What if they adapt to unpredictability? Then we get even more unpredictable, Inho grinned. Trust me, humans are very good at being crazy. The first wave of swarm creatures came over the hill like a black tide. The alien forces opened fire with their energy weapons, creating perfect lines of destruction. The swarm adapted within minutes, their bodies absorbing the energy and redirecting it. Alien forces fall back. Inho shouted into his radio. Ow! Our turn. The human attack was nothing like what the aliens expected. No formation, no coordinated fire, no logical pattern. Some soldiers fired from cover, others charged directly at the enemy. Explosive charges went off at random intervals. Close combat. Teams used knives and hammers against creatures that could absorb energy weapons. The swarm creatures slowed down. For the first time since the war began, they seemed confused. It's working, shouted Min Jae as he detonated a homemade explosive right in the middle of a swarm group. They don't know how to adapt. From his command ship, Wu Jin watched the battle through drone cameras. The human forces were taking casualties, but the swarm was taking more. Every time the creature started to adapt to one tactic, the humans switched to something completely different. Sir, reported the communications officer, we're getting reports from all fronts. The swarm is actually retreating from some positions. It was impossible, but it was happening. The creatures that had consumed entire civilizations were being pushed back by humans with metal bullets and improvised explosives. Lieutenant SEO-Jun was monitoring the alien communications. Sir, the Krolok's commander is asking how we knew too. Use these tactics. Tell him we didn't know, Wu Jin replied. We're making it up as we go. The real breakthrough came 3 days later. Engineer Min Jae had been studying captured swarm samples while the battle raged around him. Unlike the alien scientists, he was not looking for advanced weaknesses. Was looking for simple ones. Sergeant Inho, come look at this, he called from his makeshift laboratory. Inho ducked into the tent, still carrying his rifle. What did you find? These things are too perfect, Min Jae said, pointing at his microscope. Look at how they move, how they think, how they adapt. Everything they do is optimized for maximum efficiency. So they can't handle waste. They can't handle mistakes. They can't handle anything that doesn't make logical sense. Inho looked through the microscope at the swarm sample. Under magnification, he could see tiny structures moving in perfect coordination. They're like a machine. Exactly. And what's the best way to break a machine? Throw something random into the gears? Min Jae grinned. I'm developing what I call chaos protocols. Attack patterns that are deliberately wasteful, inefficient, and completely random. The swarm can't adapt because there's nothing logical to adapt to. The news spread quickly through the human forces. Soon, every squad was implementing chaos protocols. Soldiers would fire in random directions, detonate explosives for no tactical reason, and charge at empty air just to confuse the enemy. The alien observers thought the humans had lost their minds. But the results spoke for themselves. Swarm forces that had been unstoppable for months were now being pushed back on every front. Commander. The Jinn led a successful assault on a swarm hive using nothing but construction equipment and fireworks. The key, she explained to the bewildered, alien commanders, is to do things that make absolutely no military sense. But the real discovery came when Dr. Boyora arrived with the science team. While the battle raged above ground, she descended into one of the cleared swarm tunnels with a small escort team. I want to capture a live specimen, she announced. Ma'am, that's incredibly dangerous, warned Corporal Sun Ho, her escort leader. These things consume everything they touch. Not everything, Biora replied, pulling out a simple glass jar. Min Jae's research shows they have trouble with completely random biological patterns. I have a theory. Deep in the tunnel system, they found a small swarm drone separated from the main group. Instead of shooting it, Biora approached it slowly. While humming an old folk song, the creature stopped moving. Its dark surface rippled with confusion. It can't process random noise, Biora whispered. Music has patterns, but they're not logical patterns. The swarm doesn't know how to categorize it. While the creature was distracted by the song, Sunho managed to trap it in a specially designed containment unit. It was the first live swarm specimen ever captured. Back at the human command post, Biora began her analysis. What she found changed everything they thought they knew about the war. General Wu Jin, she called over the communication system. You need to see this immediately. What did you find, Doctor? The swarm isn't just adapting to our weapons. It's adapting to the logical structure behind our weapons. Every species in the galaxy thinks the same way. Find the most efficient solution and apply it consistently. And that's bad because efficiency is predictable. Logic is predictable, but chaos isn't. The swarm literally cannot process true randomness because it goes against their basic programming. Wu Jin was quiet for a moment. You're saying we can beat them just by being more random? I'm saying we can beat them by being human. We're the only species that survive by embracing chaos instead of avoiding it. From orbit, Ambassador Heian-Wu watched the impossible happening. Human forces were not just holding their ground against the swarm, they were winning. Ships that should have been helpless against cosmic horrors were driving them back with weapons made of metal and explosives. But Dr. Bohr's final discovery would change everything. In her analysis of the captured swarm drone, she found something that made her blood run cold. General, she called on the emergency channel. We need to talk. All of us, right now. What is it, Doctor? I know what the swarm really is. If I'm right, this war isn't what we think it is at all. The Void Swarm had never felt confusion before. For thousands of years, they had conquered star systems with perfect logic. Every enemy followed patterns. Every battle had solutions. But the humans were different. They broke every rule of the swarm. New General Kiangsu arrived with more human ships 3 days after the first wall fell. He was an old soldier with gray hair and tired eyes. Alien commanders expected him to study their reports and make careful plans. Instead, he walked into the command room, looked at the hologram of the fortress, and said, "Let's try something stupid." Admiral Kretak's scales turned pale green with worry. "General, we must be careful. The fortress is learning from our attacks." Kun Su smiled. "Good. Let it learn the wrong things." Dr. G1, the human quantum physicist, had been studying the swarm's behavior for weeks. She found something amazing. The swarm was trying to become random like humans, but they did it wrong. They used computers to make fake randomness. They followed mathematical rules to create chaos. It was like trying to be spontaneous by following a script. "They don't understand," G1 explained to the mixed alien and human commanders. "True chaos cannot be planned. It cannot be calculated. It just happens." The swarm's crystalline structures began showing strange patterns. Perfect geometric shapes started growing crooked edges. Their energy flows, once smooth and predictable, began stuttering. The fortress itself seemed to be having a breakdown. Captain Suben led her engineering team in the strangest mission of her life. Their job was to build weapons that would break at random times. She created bombs that might explode early, or late, or not at all. Her team built guns that fired backwards sometimes. They designed vehicles that would suddenly stop working for no reason. "This feels wrong," her lieutenant said, looking at a tank that had been programmed to occasionally drive in circles. "That's the point," Subin replied. "Wrong is right when fighting these things." Lieutenant Wu Zhen discovered something incredible during his communication experiments. When he broadcast human emotions to the swarm, their networks crashed. Played recordings of people laughing, crying, and getting angry. The swarm's computers tried to analyze these sounds and failed completely. "Laughter has no tactical value," the swarm's messages said. "Crying serves no military purpose. Anger is inefficient. Error, error, error." The word error started appearing in all swarm communications. They were experiencing something new and terrible: doubt. Sergeant Minho took advantage of the swarms. Confusion. He led attacks that made no sense. His team would charge toward the fortress, then stop to have lunch. They would dig trenches facing the wrong direction. They used their biggest weapons on the smallest targets and threw rocks at the strongest defenses. The fortress tried to adapt. Its walls grew thicker where humans threw rocks, its weapons aimed at empty trenches, its shields powered up against attacks that never came. "It's learning our tricks," Minho reported. "But it's learning them wrong." Dr. Haijin watched the swarm's evolution with fascination and horror. The creatures were changing themselves, trying to match human unpredictability. But they approached randomness like a science project. They created charts of chaos. They made mathematical models of madness. Some swarm units began moving in zigzag patterns, thinking this was random. Others started attacking their own forces, believing this was chaotic. The most advanced units tried to make jokes. They were terribly bad at it. One intercepted swarm message read, "Humor protocol activated. Why did the organic cross the space lane? To achieve tactical advantage on the opposite side, end humor protocol." The humans found this hilarious. The aliens found it disturbing. The breakthrough came when Private Yunji had a terrible day. Everything went wrong for her. Her alarm clock broke, her breakfast burned, her weapon jammed, her uniform tore. She was late for every meeting and tripped. Over everything. But the fortress couldn't handle her bad luck. Every mistake she made caused bigger problems for the swarm. When her gun jammed, she hit it with her helmet. The random vibrations disrupted the fortress's shield generators. When she tripped and fell, she accidentally activated a beacon that confused the swarm's navigation systems. "Her luck is so bad, it's good," Minik So-young observed. "The fortress can't predict accidents that she doesn't know she's causing." General Kung Su realized they had found the key. "We need more accidents," he announced. "But they have to be real accidents. We can't fake this." The human forces began operating in a new way. They stopped trying to avoid mistakes. Instead, they let mistakes happen and used them as weapons. Broken equipment became tools. Wrong turns became surprise attacks. Communication failures became secret codes. Chief Engineer Dong Hyen created the most unreliable technology in galactic history. His machines worked perfectly by working terribly. A scanner that gave wrong readings actually gave right readings about wrong things, which somehow gave correct information about right things. The other coalition species watched in amazement and terror. The Vekmori generals covered their eye stalks. The Velinary admirals turned blue with shock. The crystal beings of Shardlin actually cracked from stress. This is not warfare, Admiral Kredak said. This is organized madness.
Exactly, Kangsu
Replied, and madness is winning. The fortress began showing signs of critical failure. Its perfect walls developed random cracks. Its energy patterns became chaotic. Its communication systems started broadcasting poetry, which horrified the swarm's logical mind. But the most disturbing change was in the swarm itself. Some units began acting independently, trying to be unpredictable. This created internal conflict. As different parts of the swarm made contradictory decisions, the collective consciousness that had made them strong was breaking apart. Dr. Jiwan documented everything. "Hey, the swarm is trying to evolve beyond logic," she reported.
Nice.
But logic is all they know. It's like asking water to become fire while staying water. As the fourth phase of the battle ended, the fortress stood damaged and confused. Its perfect defenses were full of holes, not from weapons, but from trying to defend against attacks. That didn't make sense. The swarm sent a message that shocked everyone. "We do not understand. Please explain your strategy so we may counter it effectively." General Kyungzu's response was simple. "We don't understand it either. That's why it works." The stage was set for the final assault, but nobody, not even the humans, knew what form it would take.
Ow.
And that was exactly the point. The final day began with Commander Tommen making the worst battle plan in galactic history. He gathered all the human commanders in a room and gave them one simple order: do whatever you think is wrong. Captain Subin stared at him. "Sir, that makes no sense." "Perfect," Taemin replied. "If it made sense, it wouldn't work." The alien commanders begged to understand the human strategy. General Kungsu spread out a map of the fortress and pointed to different sections. "Subin, attack the strongest point with your weakest weapons. Ujin, send surrender messages while charging forward. Minho, I want you to completely ignore." "The fortress? Ignore it, sir," Minho asked. "Yes. Go have a picnic on that hill over there. Make it a really good picnic. Use tablecloths and everything." Admiral Kretek's tail twitched with panic. "This is suicide. You're dividing your forces for no reason. You're giving up every advantage." "How you're getting it," Taemin said cheerfully. Dr. G1 had calculated the impossible. Her quantum models showed that the swarm's consciousness was reaching a breaking point. "They're trying too hard to be random," she explained. "Their systems are overloading from the contradiction. One more impossibility might crash everything." The attack began at the worst possible time. The fortress's maximum power cycle when its shields were strongest. The humans had no air support because their ships were flying in the wrong direction. Half their weapons were broken on purpose. Their communication system was playing classical music instead of tactical updates. Private UNG led the first wave, and everything went wrong immediately. Her unit got lost and attacked a completely different section of the wall. Her explosives went off too early and created a crater in the wrong place. Yunji herself fell into the crater, dropped her weapon, and accidentally activated an emergency beacon. But the accident worked perfectly. The crater redirected the fortress's shield energy into the ground. The dropped weapon landed on a hidden sensor, disabling an entire defense grid. The emergency beacon broadcasted on the same frequency the swarm used for coordination. It's causing massive confusion. Captain Subin's assault team reached the main gate and did something unprecedented. Instead of trying to break it down, they knocked politely and waited. The fortress's door-opening protocols had never been used in battle. The ancient systems, designed for peaceful visits millions of years ago, activated automatically. "Thank you," Subin said to the fortress, as the massive doors slowly opened. The fortress tried to close the doors, but the politeness protocol was stuck in a loop. Out. Its systems couldn't decide if the humans were guests or invaders. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Wujin's communication unit was broadcasting surrender messages while advancing toward the fortress center. "We give up," his loudspeakers announced as his troops charged forward, with weapons blazing. "Please accept our unconditional surrender. We are attacking you with great respect." The swarm's response systems crashed, trying to process surrendering attackers. Their prisoner handling protocols activated while their defense systems tried to shoot the same targets. The contradiction created feedback loops throughout their network. Sergeant Minho's picnic was the strangest military action ever recorded. His entire unit sat on a hillside eating sandwiches and playing card games while completely ignoring the battle. They laughed at jokes, shared photos of their families, and discussed their favorite movies. This drove the swarm completely insane. Their sensors detected a large human force that posed no threat and showed no interest in the battle. Every tactical model failed to explain this behavior. Resources were wasted analyzing the picnic threat while real attacks succeeded elsewhere. Chief. Engineer Dong Han's broken machines performed miracles through malfunction. A scanner that displayed everything backwards revealed hidden passages when read incorrectly. A weapon that fired in random directions hit targets that couldn't be aimed at directly. A vehicle that only worked when kick started working when someone sneezed nearby. The fortress began displaying impossible behaviors. Walls opened and closed randomly. Defense systems fired at empty space while ignoring real threats. Communication arrays broadcast alien poetry mixed with mathematical formulas. Dr. Haijin recorded the swarm's final messages. They were a mixture of logic and madness. Cannot compute human strategy. Strategy does not exist. Non-existent strategy is succeeding. Logical impossibility detected. Or impossibility is logical. Error, truth, help. The turning point came when Commander Taemin reached the fortress's command center. The massive crystalline brain that controlled everything was pulsing with chaotic energy, trying desperately to understand human behavior. Taemin looked at the alien consciousness that had conquered galaxies and made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. He surrendered. "I give up," he announced to the swarm. "You win. Humans are too chaotic and stupid to defeat you. We surrender completely." The swarm's relief was immediate. Finally, logical behavior. Activated acceptance protocols and powered down their weapons. Victory achieved through the enemy's admission of defeat. Then Taemin immediately changed his mind. "Actually, wait," he said. "I take that back. We don't surrender. We're going to keep fighting." He paused, then added, "But we also still surrender." Both things are true. The swarm's consciousness experienced something no artificial intelligence should ever experience, a paradox that couldn't be resolved. They had accepted surrender, but the humans were still fighting. They had won, but they were still losing. The enemy had given up, but was also continuing. The crystalline brain began to crack, literally and figuratively. "No," Taemin continued cheerfully. "I changed my mind again. We surrender, but only on Wednesdays. Today's Friday, so we're still fighting. But we'll surrender next Wednesday unless we don't." The command center's lights began flickering. The swarm's perfect logic circuits couldn't handle sustained paradox. Across the fortress, systems began shutting down as the central consciousness collapsed under the weight of impossible contradictions. The fortress didn't explode or crumble dramatically. It simply ... stopped. The swarm's perfect order couldn't coexist with true chaos. And when forced to choose between logic and impossibility, their systems chose neither and everything. Medek So-young found Commander Taemin sitting in the silent command center, still talking to the now inactive swarm consciousness. And another thing he was saying, "We might surrender tomorrow, but yesterday we decided not to, which affects today's decision, which we haven't made yet." Sir So-young interrupted gently. "I think you broke them." Taemin looked around at the dark crystals and silent machines. "Oh, good, I think." The victory celebration was typically human. They cheered, cried, hugged each other, and argued about what had actually happened. The alien coalition forces watched in bewilderment as humans celebrated success. They couldn't explain using methods they didn't understand. General Kunsu, received 17 different medals from 17 different alien governments. He also received court-martial papers for violating 43 military regulations. He accepted both with equal confusion, which the aliens decided was perfectly appropriate. Dr. G1's report became required reading at every military academy in the galaxy. Human strategic chaos, when impossibility becomes possibility. Unfortunately, no non-human species could successfully apply her lessons. Their attempts at controlled chaos invariably became logical again. The fortress became a monument to human unpredictability. Tourists from across the galaxy came to see where order was defeated by chaos. The gift shop sold t-shirts that read, "I survived human logic" in 17 languages. 6 months later, Captain Subin was promoted to admiral while simultaneously being demoted to lieutenant for the same actions. She decided this made perfect sense and refused to question it. The galaxy was safe. The swarm was defeated, and nobody fully understood how or why, which was exactly the way humans liked it.